Thank you, Madam President. From the Finance Committee, I mentioned it a few weeks back at one of the neighborhood meetings. Superintendent of Schools Larry Spring spoke regarding the finances of the school district, and as the mayor even spoke of tonight, coordination between all the different governmental entities, what goes on at the school district, whether you have kids in the system or not, impact us here in the city. And so I thought the information that he had would be very informative to us and the council, as well as our audience here. So I'd like to ask Mr. Larry Spring to come up and speak to us for a few minutes, just to kind of give us some highlights from some of the information he has.
Good, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it. I've got some handouts here, so you've got some things to take away with you, because I've got lots of numbers. Just pass this out for me. So first of all, thank you very much for allowing me to be here to speak with all of you. And second of all, I want to make sure that I talk about some of the really good things that go on in the school district. So as we talk about partnering with the city and helping ourselves do what we need to do with bringing residents into the city, I think it's important to recognize that we have some phenomenal students and some phenomenal staff in the school district. We send kids to the best universities that this country has to offer every year. We have kids who get scholarships in things that I never dreamt were possible. Kids who get scholarships in drama and dance and things like that. So we have some really top-notch programs. But we do have some significant battles in the school district. In particular, we have some equity issues that we're wrestling with. And as I have dug into those, I find that most significantly, we have some financial equity issues. And so as we talk about what that means, and I have been working hard with the state education department, with our local representatives, our assemblymen and senators, meeting with the governor's office, trying to help to rectify this situation. But the city school district receives about 54% of the state aid that it is supposed to receive by the formula that the state has developed. So that formula says, kind of, here's how much it costs to provide a sound basic education for all children in the state, adjusted for lots of different things, including the region, how much poverty exists in a school district, and all of those kinds of things. We know that Schenectady has a fairly high percentage of youth living in poverty, and that requires some pretty special care from staff in order to help those children. And lots of times, kids who are walking into school living in pretty intense poverty, they're walking into school suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And so they're presenting with some pretty significant mental health needs that we need to address before we can even begin talking about helping them learn to read. And so this number that the state has come up with, this how much it costs to provide a sound basic education, they take from that number the ability of a community to fund its own schools. And they use the combined wealth ratio for that, 1.0 being the average combined wealth ratio of school districts around the state. And they manufacture that formula so that 1.0 is always the average. The highest combined wealth ratio in the state is about 45. So there is a school district in the state that is about 45 times as wealthy as the average school district in the state. Around us, the wealthiest school districts are about average. They are about 1.0. There are a couple that are a little above that, none even approaching 2. Schenectady is 0.38. So we are not nearly as able to pay for as much of our own programming as many other districts. And that is supposed to funnel additional aid to our school district. That factors into the formula, except that there's a floor on that formula, and the aid ratchets up until it gets down to 0.65. And anything below 0.65 the aid does not go up anymore. So that means that intensely poor districts are treated just the same as moderately poor districts. That doesn't seem to make sense. And I've asked that we consider that at the state level. But more significantly than that, as the state settled their campaign for fiscal equity lawsuit, or not that they settled it, but that as the courts decided it, and they created this formula, the state has been unable to equally fund all districts according to this formula. And there are some districts that are getting much more than 100% of the funding prescribed by that formula. The highest funded district in the state is getting more than 2,000% of aid according to that formula. And Schenectady is getting 54% of the aid prescribed by that formula. The median district in the state is getting about 82%. Now here's what that means for a school district the size of Schenectady. We've got about 10,000 kids. We've got a budget of about $156 million. We are being shorted by the state about $62 million every year. So the formula that the state has adopted says that they should be paying us an additional $62 million every year. Now, in order to make up that shortfall, we have done two things over the years. We have cut significant services to our kids, and in doing so, we've cut these things that are not mandated. We've cut mental health services. We've cut electives. One of the funny things about education, the minutes that we have to teach PE is prescribed in legislation. So assemblymen, senators, and the governor many years ago all approved a law that said we have to teach PE 120 minutes. Not in law and not in regulation is there anything that says how many minutes we have to teach reading, or even that we have to teach reading. And so a number of years ago, to try to begin to adjust to this shortfall, we cut our number of reading teachers in half. That just doesn't seem, it seems like we're having to cut off our own feet in this race that we're trying to arm our kids with. It just doesn't make sense. I think at the core of what we're about is literacy. So as I began this perhaps quixotic battle with the state about, how is it that one of the poorest school districts is getting one of the lowest percentages of implementation of state aid, I began to collect more data and dive into it, and I found something that I found even more disturbing. It's not just that one of the poorest districts in the state is getting a smaller percentage of state aid, but when I took all of the demographic information of students in all of the districts around the state and I integrated that with the state aid data, what I found is that the whiter the student population, the more likely it is that a school district receives all of their state aid. And so school districts that have a minority as majority of the student population, they make up only 55 districts in the state. There are close to 700 districts in the state, so they're about 8%. About 8% of the districts are minority as majority. However, they make up 30% of the districts that are being funded at 60% or less of what the formula says that they should be making. If we go to the other end of the scale, districts that are getting 90 to 100% of their aid, they represent only 1.5% of those districts. Districts that are minority as majority have better than a 50% chance of getting 80% of their aid or more. If you have a minority as majority, you've got less than a 20% chance of getting 80% of your aid. that didn't seem possible to me. It didn't seem like that was, in the year 2013, in New York State, it just didn't seem like that could be going on. And so as I talked with some folks about that, what I found was this was relatively new information. People had not seen this before. I spoke to the lead attorney in the Campaign for Fiscal Equity case. Hadn't looked at it before. People had not really taken those two sets of data and integrated them and put them together. But I think that it's significant because even though the aid formula is intended to drive aid towards poorer school districts, withholding aid from people who are not wealthy, we might say that's wrong, but it's not necessarily illegal. When it happens by race, we know that we have a civil rights issue. And so I believe there's an additional level there for us to be very concerned about. We call that disparate impact. Now, why do I think that this is important for the city and folks who do not have kids in school to be concerned about? Because that $62 million, and let's not even dream about being fully funded. Certainly not that district that's getting 2,000% of their funding. But let's just dream for a second about being funded at the median. If Schenectady got 82% of the aid that we were supposed to get, that would mean approximately $38 million additional revenue. Here's what I believe that would mean for both the school district and the city. I think that for $38 million, we would be able to do three very significant things within the schools. We would be able to address the mental health needs of all of our children who come to school hungry, with anxiety, and with depression, who are unable to really participate in school because they're living in very uncertain circumstances outside of school. I think that we would be able to intervene with academic intensity with kids at the middle level to make sure that they could get into 9th grade ready to earn credits right away. And I think that we could provide enough support and services for our high school students to ensure that they persist in high school, develop not just the core academic skills, but also the work experiences that they would persist and get a diploma. I think we could do all of those three things, and we should be able to lower the tax bill from the school district for everyone by 1/3 if Schenectady received only a median level of the aid to which they're, by law, entitled. So I know that we've got some of our local assemblymen on board with this. They're working hard to help us fight this battle. We've got some other folks very eager to help us with that as well. I've asked not just parents within the school district, but all residents of the city, because this is not just a school district issue. I think that this is absolutely critical to the renaissance of the city. If we want to bring new businesses in, if we want to bring new homeowners in, I can't think of a better way to help us with the renaissance of our neighborhoods than by being able to say we can lower the tax bill significantly, merely by allowing the school district to be treated reasonably and fairly in the aid formula. So I've got that information there for you. You can look up the numbers. I'd be happy to answer questions about it either right now or later on the phone or in another meeting. I can talk about this ad nauseum, but I appreciate the opportunity right now very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Spring, for coming. When I heard some of this information, I just found that it was important enough that we spoke here at the council, to the council members, the mayor, and our audience. I thank you for coming. Just wanted to, I guess, highlight one thing. The action that you would like not only council members to make, but all members of the community is to...
I would love for people to contact your state senator and ask, is this okay? Is it okay that school districts, some school districts get less aid because they have high percentages of minority students, or because they are poorer school districts? And if that is not okay, I would ask that you demand that they stand up and say, this is not okay. It needs to change. And if they do think it's okay, I would ask that you really work on it. I don't think that that's an okay proposition in 2013 in New York State, and I think we have to press the issue. I think it's time.
I have one more question for you. If members of the public want to get this information, where may they find the specific data that you've...
There's all of this data and more right on the website, Schenectady City School District, Schenectady, .a12.ny.us.
Great. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming down and speaking to us.
Yes, thank you.